Hi, I'm Barbara O'Brien. I'm an animal trainer and photographer, and I'd like to welcome you to the Empathetic Trainer. Barbara O'Brien here with the Empathetic Trainer podcast. I had the pleasure of interviewing the very talented Kerri Lake. Kerri is an author and has written 2 books, Listen Like a Horse and Spiritually Gifted. Kerri has a unique way of communicating with animals and people. Kerri is a very spiritual person, and she helps others awaken their own awareness and deepen connections in their lives. Well, Kerri, thank you for coming. We are so glad that we're going to be able to talk to you today. And we've got so much to cover because you have a lot to share and it's all like really good stuff. And so we're like really excited to have you here, like I said. And I wish we had hours and hours and we'll have to just do it again, I think, because we're not going to cover everything. But I've got some notes here about, find my notes here real quick and things I wanted to ask you about. First of
Okay.
all, the beginning of your journey, because you say that awareness began early in life. So, first of all, let's talk about like your life a little bit, like where you started, and what does that mean, like awareness? It's obviously as a child, but children they are much more freer about what can be, as opposed
hmm
to what maybe is, and that was really neat that you're able to tune into that as a child. So, if you want to just share this a little bit about what that means, we'll start there.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, so, um, obviously, as an infant or a toddler, we don't really have vocabulary to describe our experiences. We don't really have a frame of reference necessarily to compare and contrast to what adults experience in the world. But when I was, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, I was aware of the music that is played. And music is the only word that really fits the experience of lying in the grass and hearing the life of the grass and hearing the insects and watching all the insects sing to the grasses and the grasses and the flowers sing back. This was more real to me than being told how to behave,
Ah,
right? Being spoken to by humans took so much work because I had to figure out not only what they were trying to say, but also manage the feeling of the emotion that came with it, and then reconcile whether or not the people were aware of the feelings, because I would feel the feeling first, then the words would come, then try to understand, then try to figure out if I got it right or wrong. Right. So I was operating that way cognitively, when I was 3 and 4 years old. So that's one way to say awareness began early. My earliest memory actually was in infancy, that of course, you don't have language. It was a pure
mm-hmm.
awareness of consciousness, where the moment I realized that the hand floating in front of my face, this baby's hand, was my hand,
Oh,
and there was a recognition. I'm like, oh, I'm back. Yes, we did it. Oh my God, I know exactly what to do. I remember exactly what this is all about. And it was all a feeling, right? Because you don't have linear thought and language and association, but there's still that depth of intuitive intellect. So that's what I mean by awareness early in life.
wow, wow. Now, did so then animals played into that because the awareness is how animals survive,
Well,
right?
yeah, I'd
So,
say it's way more than that. Awareness is how animals live. The idea of survival is a human creation. Life is not out there surviving. Life is out there perpetuating, relating to itself, growing, sharing, communicating with itself, harmonizing and reharmonizing with itself. Survival is a human concept that just sort of uh, gave people a way to feel strength in their own actions and to be able to relate to one another from this perspective of, I'm going to stay alive more than you, right?
wow, yeah, no, that. We could solve so many things if we didn't look at it quite like
Yeah,
that.
I'm just saying, I don't
Right?
know,
Yeah,
try
no,
it out.
yeah, no,
Like,
that
don't take my word for it. Try it out.
mhm. So, okay, so as a young child,
Mhm.
when I was growing up, my mom would say, like on summer nights, you could hear the corn grow,
Yeah.
and I loved that because I've always felt that way. Like you can hear and feel. I mean, and not on the scale. I don't think I have it quite as you, but that awareness of the world around me as the natural world.
Mhm.
And I think that's why it's worked to be in the animal world the way I am because I'm connected to them in the way that I am. I just want to be more connected. And all of us want to be more connected with the natural world, which animals are, I think, are our door to
Mhm.
the natural world because it's easier to communicate with a dog than a piece of grass, for instance, right? Doesn't mean the grass is less valuable. It's just we're able to, at least the dog gives you some, a clear signal back, perhaps.
Well, yeah, it's more
So
a dog
when you
is
were
more
growing up,
relatable to humans than grass is. It's easier to relate because just because of the way dogs function on the planet, it's vastly different
mhm.
than grass. But yeah, but please go ahead.
Yeah, but I still think we need the grass. So let's
Oh,
not get rid of
yeah,
that, you know? Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So my question then was so you're growing up,
Mhm.
how did your parents or whoever you was taking care of you, how did they handle this child who may have been let's see, I don't know quite your age because you look very young. But in their society, in their world, how did they handle this child that may have been perceived as a little different?
Yeah, definitely perceived as different. Like, I was the wiggle fits. I was precocious. I would talk to anybody. And I remember hearing uh, regularly enough, Kerri, the dog is not talking to you. Kerri,
Oh,
stop. Kerri, stop.
oh,
Kerri,
that's so
stop.
sad.
Kerri, stop.
Mhm.
Kerri, stop. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we don't need to make anybody wrong because, like you said, my parents grew up in the era that they did. They had the awareness that they did, and they were
Mhm.
doing the best they could with what they had, right? And,
Right.
the truth is for me uniquely to stay awake to my gifts. The family I was born into was uh, a profound gift in that I was constantly given an example of something different than me.
Mm.
And because I felt the animals and the natural world within me, I felt my own nature so strongly. I constantly had a comparison for my mind to go, wait a minute, that does not feel like this. And this feels real. So I'm going with what feels real. Right. So
Well, that sounds pretty brave of you then to not conform in that sense, you know?
yeah, well, the truth is I tried desperately to conform. and, and,
And why not, right? Because
y-
you want to
you
feel
know,
secure. So,
well, when you're constantly told, stop it, no, you're wrong. I knew this couldn't be wrong, but I'll try it their way. I really wanted them to be right because it seemed really bad to be wrong. And so,
mm,
so I, like many of us who are very sensitive, um, I had the the connection with my own nature, but there was a barrier that came in um, that was never completely solid. It was like this filter of what I can and can't express. But and so I tried to be normal. I tried to be a normal kid, and I tried to be a normal teenager. But I was told that teenagers are all horrible, and I didn't want to be horrible. So I had to reconcile that, you know. And but always, always there was my innate connection. And again, it wasn't nature outside of me that I was feeling. It was my own nature that animals amplified within me.
okay. Okay.
Okay. And that's
Yeah. No.
actually how the system works. When I feel connected with animals and the natural world, what I'm feeling is the nature resident within me, and all of my brothers and sisters on the planet show up to amplify that by saying, well, here I am, and there
Mhm.
you are. And
Okay.
that's when this guy, the thinker, can go, oh, that's what you're talking about, right? That recognition is actually one of the most simple and efficient and effective ways to expand our capacity to communicate with the natural world, is recognize where it's already happening, and it will expand all on its own.
That's pretty cool because it sounds like it was always there.
Mhm.
How did it manifest itself? How did you?
Mhm.
Maybe you can just tell me something about that so I can understand.
Sure. There wasn't really a moment. It was more like as I grew into toddlerhood, the awareness became more linear. It became more cognizant. So I remember distinctly, like I was saying, just lying in the grass
Hmm.
with the bees and the clover flowers and the insects,
Yeah.
and it was music. But you have to be a certain age before your mind can cognitize music, right, as a thing, as a
Hmm.
concept. There were I have other memories of our dog Patty lying on the ground next to the house in this really sunny spot, and I would just be moving my hands over the top of him, and I would know things are changing. I knew something was happening,
Hmm.
and he loved it. He would like lay there and he would go, oh yeah, come back up to my head. Okay, now go down to my hips.
Hmm.
Okay, and now late decades later, I have the term energy work. And that, like, knowing that when I move my hand, it's changing things in the universe,
Oh.
that just was as obvious as putting your hand in front of a light and it creates a shadow. It was like no different. It's just I had awareness of all those subtle realms way before I had vocabulary to talk about it with other people.
Cool.
And
All
then
right.
the apple trees, I would go sit next to the apple trees and giggle. And I knew it was the apple trees like tickling me. And the words I had for it at the time were, the apple trees are telling me jokes. So I said that to my parents. Like,
And
why are
then
Kerri?
they're
Yeah,
worried. They get worried, right? They're
of
like,
course, of
yeah,
course. Like,
yeah,
Kerri,
which
why
is
are you
sad.
laughing so much? Well, the apple trees are telling me jokes. The apple trees are not telling you jokes.
Huh. Yeah.
So, so it's having it to me, and the reason why I do the work I do now is helping people relate to their natural systems differently than what we've been taught. Find your own relationship with where this kind of nonlinear information is already offered to you through your own systems, right? And
Hmm.
whether or not you can put words to it, just recognize it first, and the words will come.
I think intuitively, I've always understood that touch with animals is really, really important. And how I know them is through touching them.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that. And the same thing with like, it's okay, as a rational adult, right? That is not as aware as I could be. We have a really old oak tree. We only have two oak trees on our 40 acres. The rest is all maples and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
this really old oak tree down in a valley part of the farm, and I tell you, when I go down there, I know that tree. And I don't know how to explain how I know that tree, but that tree, and I think, remember that book? I can't remember the title, but the trees talk to, it's a book about how trees talk to each other. And
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I should have looked it up, but the trees talk to each other. I'm of the mind like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So I would like to be more aware, but so I get it. I guess I should just say it like that. I get it. And
Yeah.
then how touching animals and being with animals is a form of healing for the animal and for ourselves, because maybe it completes that circle that we're supposed to be in. This
Mm.
is why the same reason, like when you walk in the water, like you walk on a shoreline and your
Mhm.
feet are touching the shoreline and the water, it's like completing a circle. Why does it make us feel good? Why do human beings normally like that feeling, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Or any number of things that happen in the natural world. So I think you're right on. It's just we're not awake, maybe a
Well,
lot of us.
it is the way society's been organized. It completely prioritizes linear thinking, like hunt and get thinking, problem solving
Hmm.
thinking. And if being good in society and being intelligent means you solve problems well, then you're going to look for problems to solve so you can be good at it, right?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes. Right. Right. Borrowing trouble, as it were.
Right?
You know?
But nature
Yeah.
nature is not problem solving. Nature is recognizing a disharmony if there is one, and there's always a greater harmony that's going to bring it all right back into a fluid expression. It's non-linear. So when you're touching animals, that's a non-linear relationship. That's not saying I feed you, therefore you owe me love. It's not
Oh, okay.
saying
Yeah.
I keep you, therefore you perform when I want to. Or it's also not saying your body needs healing, therefore I will heal you. Okay?
Hmm.
That's linear thinking that humans, you know, are kind of addicted to, frankly. But what happens in communication and healing is actually non-linear. When I touch or when I listen deeply or if I share my heart, the basic communication is here I am.
So can you give us an example of, say, you're gonna like, you're gonna talk to a dog or a horse or a cat. We'll just
Mhm,
start with some domestics, whichever you want to talk about.
mhm,
How does that work when you say like I communicate, I open my heart,
mhm,
um, for us that aren't caught up yet and we're still learning,
mhm.
how does that work?
So the step by step would be something like this. And I'm thinking about a horse I met at an auction. It's a story that's in the book, actually, in Listen Like a Horse.
Okay,
And
great.
he was just, he'd been through lots of different versions of hell in my personal assessment. And so this horse already knew one kind of relationship with humans, which was not so good for him. And here I knew I was there to get him out of that situation, but I'm showing up like a human. And he
Hmm.
has every right to expect that I would come at him with ropes and whips and scariness. So,
Hmm.
of course, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to come at him with ropes and whips and scariness. And I have to find a way to let him know that. Okay.
Hmm.
So here was kind of the step by step. The first thing I did before I even stepped into the paddock with him is I took stock of my own feels. I had anxiety. My tummy was a little bit tense. My mind was aware that there were cowboys all over the place with their ropes waiting for me to die because they told me that this horse tried to kill 6 of them and I was clearly going to fail. So I had that in my head to address, right? So the first step in offering communication, and that's important. I start out by offering communication rather than trying to get communication from an animal.
Oh, okay. So, for instance, when somebody's meeting a new dog, instead of just glomming onto the poor dog and not giving him a chance to, it's more of like, I'm standing here and I'm aware of you and you're aware of me, and I'll let you approach if you want to.
That's
I mean,
that
that's
is
as a dog person, that's how I would think of it.
Yep, that's a beginning. So for me, it was before acknowledging he's aware of me. I told him I'm aware of myself. I'm
Okay.
aware there's
So
anxiety.
you kind of like, and then you worked through you kind of, did you let go of the anxiety about what was happening around you, or did you just go like, no, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to work through it. I'm just feeling it. Here I am. I mean, how did you handle that part?
I'm just feeling it, and here I am. I just want to let you
Okay.
know this part is me.
Simple. It was very simple and clean. Simple.
Extremely simple. It's acknowledging what is. Okay. And when I acknowledge what I'm feeling, that absolutely gives the animal a clear lens for what I'm bringing to the show, right? Now, what I
Right.
didn't do is go into a whole psychological healing. I have to handle this before I can go touch the animal. Because,
Because we'd be doing that endlessly, in a
right.
way, right?
And that's what keeps us in our head, trying to solve the problem before we communicate, as if I am a problem. And the animals don't see us as a problem. The animals go, "Who are you? What do you? What is it? What are you bringing?" Okay. So even though I'm aware there's anxiety, there's thoughts about, and yeah,
Mhm.
for a second or so there were thoughts about what are these people going to think about me, but then I reorganize and I ask myself, why am I here? What am I actually here for? I'm here to help this horse get out of this situation. I'm here to do it in a way where he doesn't get hurt and I don't get hurt. And we're going to end up at a 5 acre pasture with 2 foot tall grass. That's why I'm here.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, the first part of helping this horse that had been through a lot, was in the auction pen, however, was being aware of yourself and accepting
Mhm.
what you were feeling instead of trying to like, I got to be work through all this and just present myself this way. You were just being honest.
Exactly.
You were just being honest about how you were feeling at that moment. Because from what I understand and am learning through my own experience, horses can see right through bravado. They can see right through a false, when your brain's not matching your body. They see it better than humans do.
Yeah,
So we may as well, sounds like you may as well just go, okay, here's what I'm dealing with. Here I am.
that's exactly it. Because,
Okay.
that horse has so much wisdom and knowledge and experience already. I'm just going to let him make his own decision what I'm about. I'm not going to try
Okay.
to convince him I'm here to help you, right?
Okay, all right.
Right?
That yeah, because that's a whole nother, now we're demanding something right away.
Exactly,
So
which
that's
is
that's cool.
taking rather than
Yeah.
offering.
Even though it's from a good place, we're coming from a good place, it's still demanding something. So then what happens next? What would be the next thing?
So the next thing is, I had a halter slung on my shoulder. I'm not going to hide it from him. It was, how many ways can I continue to be honest about the plan? I love that you said that because it's exactly what it is. So I walked into the paddock, and through self awareness, and again, this is where I have my particular set of gifts. I'm aware of what it feels like in my own body to hide nothing. You could use
And as
the
human beings, we are experts at hiding. This is how we live.
Well,
So,
again, that goes back to survival. That's all 100% about judgment and survival. And let's not make it bad. It's just one way to go. There are other options. And the other ways that are not about hiding and deception, we call vulnerability, right? So I walk in to the paddock and I have the halter. He sees it. I'm not going to try to pretend I don't have it. And I
mhm.
went in there and I stood about 15 feet from him, letting him decide for himself what I was about. And this is where I use techniques of communication where you have images of our next journey together, of this horse walking with me out of the paddock, out and through the barn to the trailer, riding in a trailer to a pasture, a 5 acre pasture with 2 foot tall grass. I shared all of that with him.
Okay, so when you say that you're sharing it, you are visualizing these things happening, and he's able to pick up on that because we'll just explain why is he able to pick up on that. So if you're, what would we call it? Visualizing, manifesting, imagining.
I would call it
Um,
using the imagination to tell the
uh-huh.
truth, using the tool of
I love that.
imagination. Okay, because that
Yep.
a lot of people worry. They go, well, I don't know if I'm just imagining that. Well, you are. It's a tool we call imagination. It's part of your innate system. It doesn't mean you're making it up. It means you're using your imagination to generate imagery and connections and feels and movement. Okay.
Right, because you can't hand him a note, a written piece of paper, and
Right.
says, "I expect these things to happen." You have to be able to communicate with him in a way that he, because the if he can. feel your intention in this positive way,
Mhm.
because it's intention and imagination, because your intention's also tied up in that, yes?
Well, absolutely.
I mean, in a good way, in a good way.
Well, we don't even have to call it good or bad.
Oh, okay,
It's
good. See, help me. This is good.
it's how it works. It's just how it works. Let's use a
Cool.
different
All
term.
right.
Let's call it daydreaming, right?
Okay.
When we daydream,
Guilty of that.
okay? When we daydream, we often daydream about things that like we would love to have or what would feel good, okay? And so we can use that part of our imagination, daydream, and we can notice a change in our body when we go, "Oh, yeah, the Bahamas. Yeah." Okay? But we can all notice something changes in our body. This is the same approach. It is one way to approach animal communication. Call it daydreamed with him
What the plan is.
what the
Okay.
plan is. And as I do, it changes how I feel in my body. I experience a sense of relief, of us walking together, of us stepping into the trailer, of me, what it's like to hop off the trailer, have a bath, his skin feels better, all the things.
Hmm.
Call it daydreaming. It's using the tool of imagination that actually that we can feel our own body respond. Now, here's how other individuals, whether they're horses, dogs, or snails, can relate to my daydream. Okay. Let me ask you this little side note. Have you ever walked up to a friend and asked, "How are you doing?" And the friend says, "Oh, I'm fine." But you know full on they're sad and holding back tears, even though they're smiling and saying fine, right? How do,
Exactly. Incongruent.
how do you know? What tells you that like they're perfect?
Yeah.
All the body clues, all the body language says I'm great, I'm doing great. But you have a sense that there's sadness. How does that
Yeah.
work?
Well, because it comes off in waves, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Come off in waves. And especially if you're close to the person, a child, your spouse, or your person you're with, comes off in waves. As women quite often we'll just go, fine, fine. But smart men go, she is not fine.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just throwing it out there, you know what I mean? Like we not I'm not shouldn't paint the brush all women, but if I say to my husband, for instance, 40 years been married, right? If I say, no, it's fine, I'm fine, he knows we better dig a little into this,
Sure.
because my words aren't matching what he's getting from me. So I know what
Exactly.
you're talking about.
Exactly. Okay. And I love that you said it comes off in waves. Absolutely. It is
That's how I pick it up anyway. Yeah.
exactly. It's the movement of the vibration of the feeling. So here's me standing with this little horse,
Hmm.
daydreaming, if you will, to tell him, yeah, this is what I would love for us to do. Changes the ambiance of my body, and my body shares these waves that feel like this. And riding on those waves
Hmm.
is other information we might call pictures, senses. Okay.
Okay.
Me, I would call that the waves of the heart. It is the purity of what I am sharing. Here I am. This is what's true for me. I'm going to feel it. And as I act, as I feel it, without prejudging that the horse might not believe, this is the hard part for humans. I'm not going to
Hmm.
prejudge that I'm doing it well, that he's getting it, he's not getting it. I'm simply sharing, here's me. If you
Okay.
want to come with me, this is what's going to need to happen. The halter, and we walk together and we get in the trailer, but this is what I have to offer. So it's
That's
all an inside job, right? With a
no,
willingness to act congruently with what I was
exactly.
just daydreaming into reality.
Exactly. I'm curious, is this the same thing when you meet someone for the first time? It's just a stranger first time in a safe environment. You're not afraid of them, whatever. And you start talking to them and you get this feeling that you've known them forever in the sense that you are instantly comfortable because they are what we would call in authentic. Like they're just they are what they are, and you
Mhm.
feel safe with that. Like
Mhm.
you feel safe because you can talk to them and you don't feel like they're going to come back and go no judging whatever. It doesn't feel that way. It feels safe.
Yeah.
Are you talk? Is this the same thing that you're offering the horse that? And we can go on to the next step. But what I understand is that you've sent the imagery and waves of positive things happening, and you're completely honest about it. You're not looking for an outcome at this point. You're just here's what I'd like. If this works for you, great.
Yeah.
But it gives the horse a feeling of, or the dog or whatever animal, child, whatever, safety in a sense. Like this person doesn't have an agenda. I can breathe.
Mm,
Am I,
I love I love that. See, to me, what you just described, you actually just proved the fact that we're not meant to live in defense and survival, right? What you just said proves that our natural state is beyond defense and survival. So when I show up with no offense, no defense, and simply a plan that feels like this and an invitation, then we can all just go, oh, okay.
Okay, so what happened? I mean, we're all curious now. So you're standing there with the horse. He's thinking about you. I have this picture in my head. I have rescue mares myself that have been through auctions, and so I understand exactly what you're talking about, where they've been through stuff and may not trust humans.
So I
What
stepped
happens next?
Yeah, I stepped out of the paddock to give him a few minutes by himself to just think about it, feel himself process, um, and had my friend drive the trailer around and had a couple cowboys tell me I'm about to die and they'll rope him for me whenever I'm ready. And I'm like, okay,
Oh
thank
my,
you,
all that
you
help.
know. Um, so I just gave him a few minutes and then the whole time my priority was feeling my own body, my own presence, because that's where I am available to intuitive information. I can process information, I can think about things, but really I want my thinking to serve my intuition rather than my thinking controlling things and saying, well, I can't listen to my intuition right now because I might not be safe. You're actually much safer when you start with connection. You're way safer in any
Hmm.
situation. Of course, you have to use wisdom. You're not going to go in with a fractious stallion just because of intuition. There's wisdom in how we function with this
No.
stuff, right? But generally, you are an instrument of creating safety when I, as the human, organize myself first to offer connection rather than try to get it. Okay,
Okay.
so I step out for a few minutes and then I can just feel,
Hmm.
okay, here we go. And that feeling is not just me, that feeling was also him because we're doing this as a co creation, right? So I'm feeling me connected with him. I just told him what I'm about. And I feel
Hmm.
this time for the next move. So, trailer's in
Okay.
place. And I walk in and I stand about 10 feet from him and take the halter
Hmm.
off my shoulder and I show it to him and I'm going to need to ask you to wear this. And I just stand and let him decide for himself whether I'm being honest. That's a feeling. That's a
There you go.
feeling, right?
Hmm.
Now, a lot of people, if they try to find the feeling with their head, it's not going to happen because the mind, it is not a feeling instrument. The body is the feeling instrument. So mind needs to watch the body and the body will go, okay. So that breath came and now it was time for me to prove
Hmm.
I was honest and actually let my physical action match the daydream I showed him.
Okay. That's now for the average person. Uh, that's probably hard. I mean, unless you practice or like I don't know. I feel like my brain would be going, but he could turn his butt and kick me any second, or he could, I feel like my brain would be
For sure.
warning me, like I wouldn't
Yeah,
be
for
present,
sure. And again,
enough.
that's because the brain has been conditioned for survival rather than connection, right? And it does take cultivation. It
Right.
help. This is why I do the work I do now, to help the mind cultivate itself in service to the heart. Doesn't ever deny
Okay.
the
Okay.
warning signals. It doesn't, you don't ever deny any of that.
No, because we don't
But
want to get hurt.
you
Yeah.
start functioning so that this guy goes, wait a minute, he could kick. So where do we put ourselves so we're all safe? Which is different than make him not
Okay.
kick, right? We're not, okay.
Right. Okay. So you offered him the
So
halter.
I
You
showed him
asked
the
him,
halter
and then what happened?
and just stood still, still didn't move my feet. And a couple minutes later, he just exhaled, blinked, and gave me his ear. That was him saying, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I got to step into our shared daydream. I literally just relaxed. And this, I mean, if you want to distill it down to one word, relax. I relaxed my muscles, I
Okay.
relaxed my body, and just walked up and put a halter on a horse. I didn't give it any more significance than that. Time to put the halter on the horse. He stood stock still. He didn't move a foot, he didn't move a muscle. Put it on like we've done it 100,000 times before. Turned and walked toward the gate.
Wow.
Zero pressure on the rope. He just turned and followed me out the gate and up the alleyway through the scary sales barn. At one point he got scared and
Right.
startled, and when he did, my job was to just relax, share again with him, this is what we're doing. I am here. This is what we're doing. I am here. This is what we're doing. We're walking. We're walking. We're walking. No pressure, no fear, just plan. Here we go. Here we go. And it's a feeling of movement. And again, yeah, it takes
Mm-hmm.
cultivation, but what you're cultivating is something that's already innate when you have the ability to communicate with the language of senses. It's a simple way to talk about it.
So we're all capable. It's
Exactly.
just awareness
That's
again,
exactly.
going back to
Yep.
awareness again,
And
and then
just
practice.
like not
You know.
everybody's going to learn French in a weekend, everybody's going to have their own learning curve. And it's all good. It's okay.
Right.
It's
Right.
okay. What matters is having a heart to go in that direction. So,
There you go.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I love that. So then you walked down the aisle. You got closer to the
he
trailer, and
actually
then what
went
happened?
behind me, stepped up next to me. It was beyond anything I could have expected. And we walked side by side into the trailer with zero pressure. There were six cowboys sitting on the fence watching this. He he put his head
Oh
down,
yeah.
started
Yeah.
munching, gave me his ear again. He said, "Okay, I got it." So all I remember is silence. From there, I stepped out of the trailer, closed the door, walked around, got in the truck, and drove away. And took him to the 5 acre pasture, and it was
Mhm.
literally a profound healing. Everything that the auction was left at the auction. When he got there, and just like, come on, buddy. And it was all telepathy from there, honestly. Like he stood for a bath. He stood for having all of his wounds tended to. His body healed faster than it should have,
Wow.
because that level, that kind of communication, I don't want to say level, I'll say purity of communication is actually synonymous with healing. It is helping everybody
Oh
remember
yeah.
who they
Yeah.
really are, and animals are generally quite ready to remember that and let their body change when they're in a different presence, right? Humans hold on to who I think I am, but it couldn't be that easy, and it's not that simple, and it's okay. We That's why we do the work we do, so we can address all of that. But animals
Mhm. Mhm.
are in general very
Oh, no, you are right on about that. Just a brief quick story. I'm an animal. I train animal actors.
happy.
I've done that for a long time. So for,
Yes.
ads and print ads and commercials and things like that. So work with dogs and cats and things like that. And I had a good friend who had a toller, a Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever. Great, great dogs, fun dog. Dog worked a lot as a model. Loved being a model. But his other job with his owner and trainer, that what he wanted him to do was to be this top-notch obedience dog in the obedience ring. So It was the formal obedience where it's great sport. People have a lot of fun. Dogs seem to enjoy it. Whatever. Uh, but one time he came to me and with the dog who loves to model and loved me. It was fine. He came to me and he said, my dog, he's just not doing what I want in the obedience ring. And the owner's disappointment in this dog came off, like I said, in waves. Like didn't look at what a great model he was, didn't look at what a good house dog and family companion he was, is that no, he failed at this one thing the owner, wanted him to do. And the dog felt it. And so when we're trying to do the modeling, I could feel the sadness come off the dog. And I thought, what am I feeling? And I said to him, I love you and I love your dog, but you need to like let this go. If this isn't what this world is for him, find something else you guys
Yeah.
both do together and enjoy. Because this is
Yeah.
making your dog sad. And he felt bad. I mean, he didn't know that it was, but it was making, dogs can be sad. I believe it. I think he was sad that
Yeah.
he felt the owner's
Yeah.
disappointment coming off of him. Right. So later on, I saw him later and dog was happy, owner was happy. What's going on? Oh, we started doing rally, which is a more casual form of obedience, I guess. Rally is a little, I'm not really sure because I don't do it. And then dock
Oh,
diving, which is where they jump off a dock and grab a dummy as they jump and whatever. It's a big, fun sport. Dog loved that. I mean, he's a
yeah.
toller, he's a water dog. So dog was happy, owner was happy. Um, I'm really glad I had the relationship that he was open to me saying, I think your dog is sad and you push, because you see that with people and their kids. Kids feel when parents or adults are disappointed in them, and I
Sure.
think it crushes them. You know, we need to build on what they do and are the good positive things instead of pointing out all the negative things.
Yeah.
And animals are
Yeah.
the same way. I
Absolutely.
feel like we couldn't do our training for the modeling. We couldn't do it if it
See?
wasn't positive and fun. I mean, who wants a sad animal performing? We won't do that. We won't
Yeah.
use them if they're unhappy. So same thing. We should give horses that same
Oh my
benefit of the
goodness.
doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Just what you're talking
absolutely.
about.
I love that this conversation is happening in so many different ways in the horse world and the dog world and even in the human world,
Yes.
like that disappointment, that feeling of disappointment is actually crushing the adult. It's just that the adult has used the thinker to learn how to survive that
Hmm.
crushing feeling. And animals and children don't have the calluses that human society finds normal, right? We're not designed to live
Right.
calloused.
Right.
We're designed to live open, feeling each other, having a conversation through our empathic sense. Just because, I mean, that's the first mode of communication we have as infants is how it feels before the feel.
Exactly, yeah,
Exactly.
because they can't articulate, yeah. Yeah, so that's like we're learning more and more about toxic shame and how
Mhm.
that affects us as adults and being more aware, so that's a good path to be aware and learn and try to get out from under that weight of toxic shame or pass it on
Yeah,
to the people we
yeah,
are caring
yeah.
for, So, the same thing, yeah, so it affects dogs and horses
And
and everything else, not just
hamsters and
people.
daisies and fish, because it just like the sun is this light that
Mhm,
affects all of life. All these frequencies move through and affect life. Now, here's the kicker. If we're judging that that's bad, we hobble ourselves and make ourselves far less available to shift it, to change it, to transcend it. The one thing that keeps all of the difficulties in place is the judgment that it is good or bad.
right, we
It
push it
just goes,
all.
I've decided
Yeah, like, "This is a bad feeling. It's a bad feeling, I'm gonna push it down and not feel it,"
because I've
and that makes us
decided it's
sick.
bad. When instead,
Right, which is a
see,
judgment.
it gets very simple. Like
Yeah,
there's very simple ways to approach these things. There's infinite complexity in the mix, but the way that there is a very, very simple way that we can approach it and address it with gentleness and kindness so that, it's again a different journey for everybody, but with simplicity and grace and kindness and an open heart, we can let all of those tangles come into the light so that they can resolve. And then I can have more access to my innate nature.
Which would be good for all of us to be have more grace, be more kind, less judgment, all those pieces that make living together a lot easier with our each other
Absolutely.
and our animals. So you're
Mm.
you're spot on there. Okay. So of all these things you're telling me about how it worked out with that horse in the rescue pen, I have three little Morgan mares I picked up from Montana last fall, and they two long yearlings who are now like coming to, and then a 4-year-old. And the two long yearlings, oh man, the communication's been great. We're having a blast. I mean, they're sponges, and they were raised in a large herd, so they weren't handled every day at all, but they weren't mishandled either. So they just lived kind of this happy horse life, you know, taken care of, but not having a lot of human interaction every single day, haltering and things like that. They've come along great. But the 4-year-old who's had more time, she wasn't feral, but you know, being out in this herd of 60 horses, mares, and foals, much more defensive. And it took weeks and weeks to be able to catch her with her agreeing, her wanting to be with us. Weeks and weeks to be able to walk around her without her turning her hind end like she was going to kick, lifting her leg, letting her know she was safe. I still feel like we haven't got to the point where she feels safe with me enough to let down her defenses. And then I am aware that I don't feel safe with her. And I think that comes off. And I need to work on like, and I've gotten where I can sort of touch her front feet, but I can't get her, like if I reach with anything towards her back feet, no matter how I'm reading her body language, like watching for an ear, watching for breath, watching, you know, watching the body, she kicks out like anything goes near the back feet. I had heard from the person, the breeder, that he'd had a trainer there for a while when she was young. He wasn't aware because he has so many horses, but he said he fancied himself a roper. Now, that's all he ever said about it. I don't know what happened. I had these visions that was she thrown and roped, and you know, I mean, roping's not bad in itself, but thrown and roped and like held down, something terrifying about some experience, or is she just an extremely defensive, you know, I don't know. And it makes me kind of go like, I should just send her back to the breeder. Like I'm not the one capable of being safe around her because I can't feel safe. So in that case, you know, since I got you here, I'm going to ask you like, how would you approach getting myself right in the place where I can help this mare feel safe? Because I just think that's what it is. She's not a bad horse. There's no judgment. I just feel like she doesn't feel safe.
Yeah. I love that you recognize that you don't feel safe. So, my first question is again, let's go to daydream land. Okay. And if you put yourself in, like, you create this daydream where at some point you guys are just like, holy smokes, that was easy. And it's the feeling of holding a front foot and being like, oh my God, this is so cool. Thank you. And then holding a back foot and going, oh my God, this is so cool. Thank you. Can
Because
you
she'd feel that.
create?
She would feel that.
Well, let's not worry about her for a second. Let's let her be scared.
Oh, okay. See you see that linear thinking come in?
Mhm.
That linear brain came in and went.
Because, yeah, because like you said, you don't yet know what safe feels like. Okay. So we get to create, what is it I want to share with her? So I'll tell you another quick story about Miles, who was a 21-year-old burro who had been hogtied, thrown on the ground, given 3 shots just to do his feet. And so, of course, you couldn't get near him with a rope or a halter. And here I just took this new job managing this place and was introduced to Miles. So, not for a second did I try to tell him I'm going to help him. What I told him was how excited I am and how cool it's going to feel when we finally take care of those feet. You let me know when you're ready. So, what I
Wow, a whole paradigm shift, a whole
exactly,
paradigm shift.
right?
I love that.
Because what that means is I
Okay.
know I have the skill to do it. I know I'm willing. I know I want it to be safe for both of us. Duh, right? I'm not going to go in trying to prove to
Hmm.
Miles that he's safe because what does that do? Ugh, nobody's safe there. So what I did
Right.
was look at what am I wanting to offer, right? So for this mare, if it were me, the first thing I would start with is thank you for telling me how you feel about this before
Okay.
I try to tell her I'm going to change her.
Okay. Accepting her,
Accepting what
just where
is.
she's
It's
at
not
at
even
that moment.
accepting her, it's accepting what is. This is her behavior.
What
Okay,
is.
very good.
Okay.
Now, ah, this is how I feel about holding your foot and using this pick to make sure your feet feel good. Oh, yeah, that's
Mhm.
how I feel about that. You let me know when you're ready. And then what I'm going to do is turn and walk away, feeling this.
Wow. Okay.
So every time I think about her feet,
Keeping that.
I'm
Okay.
creating this wave.
Right. Because I feel it when other
Yep.
animals or people do it to me. So it obviously must go the other direction. It must come off of
That's
me.
how
I'm
life
just not
is
aware.
designed. Mhm. And so, yeah,
Wow.
it's about
Okay.
it. Animal communication and human communication really does settle into self awareness, and just because that's how it's designed. We have this
Mhm.
amazing structure that's designed to integrate both linear and non-linear information.
Well, does this tie into what you said, which a perpetual reminder to stay awakened to the creator consciousness? I wanted to ask you about that. Is that what you're talking about in a sense? Perpetual reminder to stay awoken to the creator
Thanks for asking about
consciousness.
that. So yes, absolutely. When I am sharing with her, with this mare, how it would feel to
Hmm.
me, like I am so excited to hold your foot and to check out the bottom of it and make sure everything looks good and healthy. Oh my
Hmm.
God, I love that. That system of daydream, feel, share is creation. It's beyond manifesting. I'm actually creating a
Ah,
space where I might experience that or something better. And so that's one way to talk about staying aware of and connected with creator consciousness. It is a level of consciousness that remembers my ability to create.
okay. Wow. This is, I'll probably be rewatching this podcast just so I can like take it all back in again because it's just so much good information. Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you about that we got from when we were doing our research is you have experienced several near-death and expanded consciousness events, each of which reminded you of the dynamic power of living from the heart for the heart. Okay, so when we hear near death, of course, that gets our attention. And then the dynamic power, which you spoke of a little bit earlier, the dynamic power of living from the heart for the heart. So if we would love to, I would love to have you expand on what with the near death experiences because I believe that people, I think they exist, they happen, and I believe that because I don't put limits on the universe. I'm a big heaven person, and so I just don't put limits on the universe. I'm just going to be open to love across the board, right? So I want to hear about that, and then which reminded you of the dynamic power of living from the heart for the heart. That phrase from the heart for the heart. That's really beautiful.
The first one that comes to mind was when I was 11, and there was just a
Mhm.
lot of emotional confusion in my house. And I remember very, very clearly standing in the foyer, and my dad was really upset because um, he was telling me that I had lied about something, and I knew I
Mm,
hadn't. I knew I
mm.
had said the truth, but he didn't understand it, and I didn't know how to say it differently in a way that he would accept. And so I just remember all of this, all these waves of crushing pressure,
Mhm.
right? And
Oh,
it
oh,
it
yeah.
sent me to a place, to my creator consciousness, to a place of consciousness so deep within me. The translation would be like, I I can't handle this. I need something else. Either tell me what's true or get me out of here. So, you know, to
Mm-hmm.
me, this
Mm-hmm.
was like a near death experience in that I was happy to let go of the body because I cannot live like that. I need something else. And what
Okay.
I went what presented for me was this huge expansive feeling. It was like being in a column of light, and I just was
Wow.
demanding to know what's true. If he's telling me I lied and I didn't, but he won't accept that I'm telling the truth, and he's the one that's upset, but he's telling me it's my, it was so confusing. I just wanted to know what the true, what is true here. And the
Mm-hmm.
response was feeling in this presence of a column of light. And it was like having heaven, if you will, having the universe, all of consciousness speak to me in a voice as clear as yours,
Wow.
saying, "Thank you. Thank you for asking. Pay attention to how you're learning this so one day you can teach people." And what came,
Huh. Uh,
the
yeah.
at
Wow.
11,
At
what
11.
came was
Yeah.
a way that I could understand what the heck those words meant. And what it was pay attention to what this feels like, how these things relate to each other, and how to navigate it, which gave me a framework
Mm-hmm.
to entertain that what's going on outside of me isn't about me. So that was the first thing that took me straight to what we can call the heart, where there is
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
judgment. It's just see it for what it is. Watch. Pay attention. Pay attention to how you're watching. Pay attention to how you pay attention. Watch. Watch. Okay, so that was the first one. Uh, when I
Wow.
was
Okay.
22,
Cool.
it was another emotional kerfuffle. And
Mm-hmm.
again, just feeling complete, like my psyche was completely broken. And I did not know. I thought I was doing a great job and paying attention and doing what I, was taught so that I could teach people, but nobody wanted to hear what I was saying. And nobody
Mm.
seemed to want to or be able to help or even hear me at all. And so I had another emotional
Mm.
fracture where I laid down in bed and it looked like 17 different portals opened. And each portal
Wow.
was an example of I could go this direction, I could choose this journey, I could choose this journey. And it went all the way from just pure light to various flavors of light and darkness, all the way to dense and dark. And at the time, I remember I was still very hard on myself. And I remember having the thought, well, there still seems to be nobody around me who knows that life can be beautiful and easy. So maybe I missed something and I'll try it their way again. I'll try it the hard way again.
Oh,
And I went straight to the darkest portal.
right. Because it's not how you were living before,
No,
or the way
and
that
I
felt the
didn't
best.
honestly feel worthy of anything more than the darkest, hardest journey. I did. Yeah.
A lot of people and
Yeah.
young people are really
Yeah.
stuck there
So,
still. Like, and that's so sad because they feel they have no
mhm.
value or worth. The young people that I've worked with and stuff, especially if they've had adverse childhood experiences and trauma, which in some form we all have had trauma,
Yeah.
they're stuck. It's like they can't see that it can be better, and so that must have been a very dark and scary
Extremely.
time for
And
you.
I think you're spot on. There are other perspectives and other options out there for a different way to live. But a lot of us are working through the dark forest, and it's sometimes really hard to see
Mhm.
that a lighter option is actually an option, right? So 2 years,
Right, and
two
yeah.
years after that, um, it was again for me.
Mhm.
My journey has been all on the emotional realms. There was another instance where I asked somebody who was being mean to me, somebody close to me, if they cared enough about me
Mhm.
to change the way they talked to me. And they said, I don't know. And I said, well, you have to leave then. And that was the most I had stood up for myself my whole life. And I said it with about,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
about that much
understand.
force. And like, okay, but then you have to leave. Right. But that put me in
Mhm.
a place where I went back to that creator essence, that column of light, and I said, I'm done. People don't
Mhm.
want kindness. I'm tired. I don't know what to do differently. I'm leaving. And so I literally laid down
Mm.
and stopped eating, stopped participating in life, and just laid down
Wow.
to leave. And it is an option. And took myself all the way to a choice point, right? All the way to this black
Mhm.
void. People call it the void, but it's black not
Mm.
because it's empty. It's black because it's everything, all the colors,
Oh,
every frequency, every color. So
right. Yeah, that's true.
exactly. So
Color
it was
theory. Yeah.
like
So,
total relief, and I'm like, oh, I remember this place. I know this place, and because I was released, not fully released from the body, but I was right at that choice point. And there was this amazing little candle, and it was lit like a vanilla votive candle, surrounded in the most
huh.
beautiful
Okay.
opalescence, like this iridescence. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen.
Mhm.
And these two beings, no bodies, nobody had a body, we were just essences connecting. And they came and they're like, hello, we're so happy to see you. There you are. And it was like the sweetest reunion. So much love. Nothing held back, nothing
Wow.
physical.
Yeah.
And in this reunion, they
Mhm.
asked, we know why you're here. Okay. And if you're ready to blow out the flame, just blow. The love is the same, no matter what choice you make. But before you
Wow.
do, will
Wow.
you let
Okay.
us remind you why you picked up a body in the first place? So I'm like, yes, remind me. And that went through, you can call it life reviews, but it was more like going back to the beginning of physical reality and being reminded what this is all about, what communication is, what connection
Okay.
is, what love is, why physical, why are humans so weird, and why do people like to kill things so much, and why humanity this and why humanity that, all the way up to why this
Mhm.
family, why these sequences of events and circumstances, why, all the way
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
teasing me relentlessly, like with the greatest love, teasing me like, look at all that's going on here, look at how powerful your presence is, look at how important every single living creature is on the planet, and you wanted to die because a boy doesn't like you. And they were like completely teasing me, making it so much love
Wow.
to point out how seriously humanity takes itself when really we're designed to live in love. So
Right. No, I hear what you're saying. I when I work with my young people, one of the first things I want to get across to them is you have value because they
mhm,
feel no value. I say you have value and you have worth, which are kind of two different things. Because value is like um, self, just you're here, the value, your creation, right? And then worth, because the value you bring to other people because of the gifts and the love that you share. You have value, you have worth, and you are loved. And I really try to like pound that in and help them assimilate that message and remind ourselves of that message because I feel
yeah.
those three things are, and you're saying love again is the whole thing that saved you,
I'd
and
say,
being a big heaven person, I feel like the creator's love, right? So I kind of like there's
yeah,
all connected
I'd,
in
I'd
love.
say, yeah,
So
I'd say it
cool.
reminded me because there's no saving. Nobody needs saving. We're all here tootling through and figuring it out, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Okay. Wow. All right. So now we've come to the time in the podcast. Now, if you were physically here, because you're not, and I wish you were, but if you're physically here, we would have like it'd be break time. And today's
Oh
treat
my
is
God.
scones. Okay. So, um, 'cause, I have to feed my crew when we're done. We all work on our stomachs, you know. So sometimes it's pie, sometimes whatever I happen to have, you know, going. Because I'm a nurturer.
Mhm.
It'd be like, Kerri, I want to feed you, you know. So, but that means the when we bring out the treats, it means that we're going to go on to the question part of the interview. I mean, we've asked a lot of questions, but this is one of my favorite parts because I borrowed this from Warwick Schiller, who is a really famous horse person that is helping revolutionize how horse people view horses and working with horses, and you are connected to that whole community. Like Dr. Susan Fay and Mary Corning, who we interviewed a couple weeks ago, who was, you know, wonderful, and more people like that. Anyway, he does this beautiful podcast. You should all go find it. Kerri's been on it, and listen to his podcast about not about horses so much, but more about people's journeys in life. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, he asked the guests to what questions they would like, and he based his questions from Tim Ferriss's book, The Tribe of Mentors. So you picked out of these 18 questions, you picked out 5 of them, and we can just go over them pretty quickly. But so the questions that you picked, if you could send a message to the world, what would that be? Or do you have a favorite quote and why?
Mm. Yeah. So what I would say, it comes down to the best piece of advice that I was ever offered, and that is slow and easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Slow and easy. It's
Oh, that's
okay.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That inherently makes you think
Mhm.
of breathing, you know, like, you know, which is how we reset and animals reset and nature resets. So that's beautiful. Okay. What is the most valuable thing that you've put your time into that has changed the course of your
Mm.
life?
Um, the commitment to my own heart and the perpetual discovery of what the heck that means.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
good advice for all of us. Um, I recommend all of you go in and look at Kerri's books because it goes into much more depth. The short conversation that we've been having here, but there is so much there to take in and learn from and spread around. We'd all be benefiting
Thank
from
you.
spreading that around. Okay, what inspires and motivates you to do what you do, and what is your true
Oh
purpose
my
in the
goodness.
world?
Well, the purpose one is easy. It's here I am. Like, let's go. And
I love that. Honest. That was
yeah,
honest, right? Just
and
boom,
truly
right? Take it or leave it. Here's Kerri.
anything other than that is just narrowing the scope, because there's so many different ways to share. Whether you're walking through Target and you get a chance to wave hi to somebody, you don't true this is literal, you don't know how that's going to ripple through their world. Here, just like with the little horse at the auction, here I am, hi.
Right, right. No, you're exactly right because when we are kind to others, um, Viktor Frankl said, "Our let's see, our job is to end suffering. Okay, and if we can't end
Mm,
suffering, don't add to it." And I try to remember that. It's like when you're literally walking through a Target and smile at someone instead of like, "Get out of my way." What a difference! Even though you don't know the person, whatever, you know, you haven't done
yeah,
them no harm. You know, like you tried your best to help, and you have done them no harm. And so that's a great way to like go
yeah.
around the world, remembering,
Well,
am I causing harm?
yeah.
We don't want to do that. That's
And
the
yeah,
love
exactly.
part.
And that comes back to the from the heart for the heart. Am I doing that to try to change that
From the heart.
person's world? No. I'm doing that because I have that to offer. And
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, we all love
this
that
is what
about you.
I am creating in the world, and it is bottomless and endless. So here you go.
Ah, what a great gift. All right. Of course, one of our all of our favorite questions. What is your relationship with fear?
Oh, that's a good one. Um, at this point, like it's been a long journey. We've been dancing for a long time, me and fear.
Hmm.
The relationship with fear,
Ooh, I like that.
yeah, where that relationship stands right now is is gentleness and kindness. So a lot of the time when fear presents itself, my
Hmm.
thinker is cultivated to come down here and offer the fear wow, I hear you. You're having a bad day. I get it. I'm right here. And that just creates space for things to move and change. The times when fear
Okay.
is super loud and overwhelming, and
Hmm.
every once in a while it catches you off guard, right? Then,
Yeah.
then um, I have full permission to call a friend and just say, can I just say these things and you'll listen? And my friends understand well enough that they will either listen and I'll hear
Mhm.
myself and speak to it and just say, oh, that's the fear. Got it. Okay. Thank you. I don't try to fix it. I don't run from it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, acknowledging it, and then you can work through the sitting with the feeling, and instead of having to do something,
And
acknowledging it,
well,
and then instead of pushing it down or amplifying it.
what I would say is it's for me anyway, it's not even sitting with it. It's acknowledging it, embracing it,
Hmm.
and bringing my heart to it.
Okay, see, there you go. That's the extra part that really is going to be helpful.
That's
That's good.
from the
Yeah,
heart
I see that.
for the heart, right? And it,
Good. I'm gonna drill that in because that's so good.
it's not
Yeah.
always
Okay.
comfortable.
Um,
It's not always
what did
easy, but
no.
it that again goes back to the commitment to my own heart is whatever it is, I want to move from my heart toward my heart and bring that sunshine, bring that light to whatever might be in
Hmm.
a temporary disharmony.
Okay. All right. Good. What did you want to be as a child, and how close did you get to that dream? Well, you're an interesting child. I mean, no doubt. So
Yeah.
this is going to be interesting.
When I was 12, watching my dad in his career and being very unfulfilled and very unhappy, I went straight back to that column
Mm.
of light and I said, if I ever have a career, I want it to be something where I'll do whatever it takes, so that I can just be myself and show up and share whatever I have,
Hmm.
and people will find that valuable enough that that I get to live a really wonderful life. So that was what I wanted to
Yeah.
be, and I'd say I'm batting 1,000 on that.
There you go. So honesty, honest. You're honest because of the honest and authentic.
Yeah.
Authentic. What we see is what we get with Kerri Lake, and
Well,
it's a
thank you.
wonderful thing that we're getting. So
Yeah,
we're all
thank you.
grateful for that. We're grateful for that. Okay. Before we wrap up, because this has been, I tell you, we're gonna be talking about this. I'm gonna be sharing this, and I should say that all of Carrie's information will be on the website, the empathetic-trainer.com, the empathetictrainer.com. You'll be able to find all of Carrie's links. For sure, take a look at her website. Look at the programs that she offers, the online programs and the in-person programs, and just really cool
Thank
stuff that you're doing. But before we wrap up, I wanted to talk to you about, and I think we have a little bit, but giving you the opportunity, the value of awareness and presence. If we could take away like the most important thing, is that the value of awareness and presence? If you could just want
you.
to fill us
Yeah.
in on that, because I think that's a really good. I'm grasping it
Yeah.
as we speak more, so this helps.
um, just like you were talking about earlier, how dogs and horses and animals, they know when you're hiding from yourself or you're, trying to put up a front, and trying to control what others think of you, right? Your presence is communicating before you even arrive. We are we are
There you go.
designed
Right.
to share presence and then decorate with language and action, and that to begin to really explore whether that's actually true, that presence is communicating before I even show up. might also suggest that your presence is actually the value you bring to anything. What quality are you
Oh,
sharing
okay.
to in this connection? What quality of beingness would you like to bring to this business transaction, to your podcast, to
Mm-hmm.
your students, to your
Mm-hmm.
clients, to your family,
Or to
to the
the animal you're
animals?
working with,
Because
same
the
principle.
animals are,
Yeah,
yeah, the
that you're with.
animals are always sharing, here's how it feels to be me. And then it gets punctuated and
Mm-hmm.
decorated with behavior and other forms of communication.
I really like how
Yeah.
you're putting that. Yeah. Wow. All right. Oh, well, this has
Yay.
been enlightening and so much fun. You are just a joy and a
Thank you.
treasure for all of us. And so everybody look up Kerri Lake. You're not going to be disappointed. And so grateful because our podcast hasn't launched yet. We will be launching, but we because it's a visual podcast, we're gonna, have some cool footage and things happening. It just takes a little time. The fact that you are so kind and generous to go with an unknown podcast, I have a listener yet, maybe 10 people, whatever. Um, Grateful, gratitude.
Oh,
We're just so thrilled that you did that for us.
thank
And I want to thank you for that. And I just thank you, Kerri, for everything.
you. You're so welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity to share it, because your questions are deep and broad, and it's just so much fun. Just so thank you for following your hearts and making scones. Like, I would definitely have a scone right now if I were there. So thank you for that.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Maybe the universe will work and we will get to meet in person because we do want to take
Oh,
this
so
show on the
good.
road eventually.
Yay.
So we would
Good.
love
Good,
that.
good, good. Well, well done.
Yeah.
Yay, team. Thank
All
you.
right.